We are very happy to be with you today with my partner, Ruben Gottlieb, and to talk a little bit about immigration, U.S. immigration, and tax. It's very interesting because I think there are new events and things are happening in 2026. I think that this webinar will tend to clarify some of the concepts that, believe it or not, so much time has passed and people still struggle, especially people they're coming to do business in the United States. So at the beginning of this conversation, I just want to say that it's a definitely distinction between what immigration status is and tax residence is. So the two distinct legal concepts that sometimes people do not really understand. And what we would like to do is to clarify some of these things. So I'm here with my tax partner, Ruben Gottlieb, and I'm so privileged to be with him. With that in mind, I will let Ruben introduce his topic and talk a little bit about tax.
Thank you, Hector. I appreciate that. And thank you for joining us. Hector and I work together. Believe it or not, there's a lot of overlap, and you, as you'll see, you could be a resident or not be a resident for immigration purposes, but yet be considered one for tax purposes, and vice versa for estate and gift tax purposes. So we're going to go into all those concepts. Both of us have been doing this for very many years, and I started when my beard was black and I didn't need these, and so that's an indication we've been doing that. So from the tax standpoint, you have to separate global from territorial. We here in the United States tax globally, meaning that wherever a U.S. individual, and we'll get into the definitions of U.S. individuals for income, gifts, and estate taxes, and there's a lot more taxes. I mean, I think I have 12 classes in tax. Our taxes have taxes, but we're going to concentrate on those three for these seminars. If you're considered a U.S. individual for income tax purposes, you're taxed on your income globally. So, for example, I'm a U.S. citizen. My family's from Costa Rica, but I was born in Chicago. And I have an apartment in Costa Rica that we rent out, and I declare it here and I pay tax here. So that's the same for anybody who's deemed a U.S. individual for income tax purposes. And the test for income tax is different than transfer taxes, which are your gifts and estate taxes. Primarily, you're a U.S. individual if you pass one of the three tests for income taxes, and that is you have citizenship. You're born here, you have citizenship. Administration is looking to change that perhaps, but until they get that change, if you're born here, you're a U.S. citizen, unless you renounce at the age of 18, or you have what's called a green card, which years ago, I've gone from green, I think you can correct me if you want, if it went from green to pink to green again, but it was always referred to as a green card, and that makes you a lawful permanent resident. Or you're here too many days, the presence test, and we'll go into that. If you go into irs.gov and you type in presence test, you'll see what the actual test is and how to calculate your days. I've had clients that come here and that if they're about to become U.S. residents, they say, I've got to go. I'll speak to you next year. And I understand completely. There are certain key factors when you get into gifting. How much can you give? And you always have to look at the individual status, meaning are they a citizen resident or they violate the presence test and they're here too many days. And Hector will tell us a little bit about the immigration visas and non-immigration visas that might violate those tests. Versus domicile for gift and estate tax. Hector, do you want to talk to us a little bit about the types of immigration, visas people can get?
Absolutely. And thank you, Ruben. One of the things that, as Ruben was mentioning, I think it's very clear and very, very important that from the outset, people, especially people that are doing business in the United States for the first time or are beginning to do business, that they work not only with an immigration lawyer, but they work with a tax lawyer. They go very much hand in hand. And because they're new, and things are changing constantly, especially in the area of immigration, that just goes without without saying. Now, it's so interesting that sometimes, for example, you can consider yourself an individual that, believe it or not, an individual can be in non-immigrant status and become an immigrant right after, or probably within the same year, and the tax obligations changes completely, because it is practically very clear that an individual that becomes a resident of the United States, a lawful permanent resident or a citizen, automatically acquires obligations, tax obligations. That's not necessarily so when you are a non-immigrant. Certain depends on certain days, certain presence tests that the tax individuals use. But suffices to say that the issue of status, although it should not be mixed with tax residence, they go hand in hand. There are implications that people need to understand. For example, even then you might be a non-resident, or in terms of having non-immigrant status and having an immigrant status, there are certain visas that they are exempt from counting days for purpose of the substantial presence test, which are counting days as physical presence. For example, students, an F1 or M1s, Q visas, J1 visas who are trainees. And those individuals have certain obligations, in almost for 5 years, their time in the United States does not count for purpose of becoming a tax resident. As you can see, it is very, very complicated. So again, and then they have the implications they have to do with the state versus federal, because the concepts of residence are completely different. And sometimes those may have an effect. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, Ruben, but I think that's basically.
Yeah, I did want to mention one type of visa or one situation where people come in. If you come in, excuse me, if you come in for medical treatment, those days do count toward the presence test. If you are here, let's say as a visitor or for a short period of time, and you need medical assistance due to something that's happened here, you have a heart attack or you have an accident, those days do not count towards the presence test. So it's a fine distinction. We get a lot of people that come to the States, come to Miami, go to Texas for cancer treatments, things like that. If you came with that, then those days do count. So that's a differentiation that needs to be made.
Which is a very fine line, as you can see it. But you know what? Here is where the tricks are. This is why you cannot forget, because if you are in a situation where you get a heart attack, and that's a different situation. If you come in and we have worked in cases like this, we are plenty of experience on that. Anyway,
we have one right now. You and I have one.
Correct. Yes, and those issues are very important because there are implications. These individuals have assets, clients have assets, and there are things they need to be careful. So again, it goes without saying that the need of working with a tax attorney. One of the experiences that I have of people that have seen other immigration attorneys is that usually the immigration attorney says, well, I'm not a tax attorney. You need to see an accountant. When in reality, what you need to see is a tax attorney. And they just don't take care of that because they're just doing the immigration case, which is not the case with us. We have to see it all in the big context.
And by the way, Hector, the opposite is true also. I've had a situation where the person, I'm thinking of one in particular, person is coming from Brazil, and it was already October, and the visa had been approved. And I said, look, if you wait till January, you could sell your building now and not in Brazil and not have to pay capital gains here. Whereas once you come here, you will have to pay capital gains on the sale. And he said, listen to me, Ruben. He goes, it's very dangerous in Sao Paulo. I want to get my family out. I said, you know what? Get here and we'll work on it. So every family situation is different.
Absolutely. No, totally agree with that. I have similar situations. I mean, there are complex issues. There's no doubt about it. We hope that you have enjoyed it and it's been informative to you. I am Hector Chichoni with Ruben Gottlieb. We both are immigration and tax attorneys. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Again, thank you for listening to this, and we hope that to see you again in further webinars.